I was taking the highway home after a late shift, trying to stay awake with the window cracked and the radio low. The road had gone empty miles ago. No headlights ahead, no headlights behind. Just black trees, long guardrails, and the white lane markers slipping under my car like they were being pulled away from me. That was when I saw the van. It sat crooked on the shoulder with one hazard light blinking weakly. An old panel van, dirty white, rear doors closed, side door half open. I slowed as I passed it and caught a glimpse through the back window. A child was sitting inside, small frame, head tilted down, perfectly still. I drove another 100 yards before I stopped. I do not know why I did it. Maybe because no one else was coming. Maybe because I kept picturing some scared kid left alone in a dead van on a freezing stretch of highway. I backed up and pulled in behind it. My headlights washed over the rear doors. The van looked worse up close, rust around the wheel wells, one tire half flat, mud caked on the bumper. I got out and called, asking if anyone needed help. No answer. The shoulder was dead quiet except for the ticking of my engine and that one weak hazard light. I walked to the open side door and looked in. The child sat in the back bench seat facing forward. Only it was not a child, it was a doll. A life-size doll in a blue coat, with pale plastic hands folded in its lap, and a round face painted with a smile too small for how real the eyes looked. Its hair was yellow and stiff, cut into a neat fringe. Even knowing what it was, my stomach still dropped, because from the road it had looked absolutely real. I let out a nervous laugh. I remember that part clearly. That stupid laugh people make when their body understands something is wrong before their mind will admit it. I turned to leave. The van door slammed shut behind me. Not hard, not violent, just a clean, solid click. I spun around so fast I banged my shoulder against the frame. The side door was closed. I had not touched it. There was no wind. For a second I just stared at my own reflection in the darkened window, mouth hanging open. Then I heard breathing. Not mine. Slow, wet, close, from the front of the van. I backed away, my shoes scraping on the metal floor. "Hello?" I said, and my voice came out thin and useless. Something shifted in the driver's cabin. Not a person moving normally, more like a body being dragged upright. I lunged for the door handle and yanked. It would not move. That was when the doll's head turned. A tiny movement, a soft plastic creak. Its painted eyes were on me now. I stumbled back against the rear doors. The breathing grew louder, followed by a sound like someone trying to swallow through a ruined throat. I hit the side door again and again, first with my hand, then with both fists. The lock pin dropped by itself, a sharp little snap. I froze. Another lock pin dropped, front passenger side, then the driver's side. One by one, like someone was making sure every exit was sealed. I could smell something then, damp fabric, oil, and underneath it, the sweet rot of something that had been shut away too long. I looked through the gap between the seats. There was a man in the driver's seat. At least, I think it had been a man once. His face was turned toward me, but the skin hung loose and dark, stretched tight in some places and split in others. His jaw worked slowly, opening and closing as if he had forgotten how mouths were supposed to move. One hand rested on the steering wheel. The other was missing 3 fingers. My chest went cold. I had seen that hand already. The doll's plastic hand. They were not plastic at all. The thing in the front seat smiled without lifting its lips. Then, in a child's voice so perfect it made my knees weaken, it said, "Will you help me now?" The rear doors burst open behind me. I fell out onto the gravel shoulder and scrambled away on my hands and heels. I expected something to grab my ankles. I expected little footsteps. I expected that ruined voice right beside my ear. Nothing touched me. I made it to my car, slammed the door, and tore onto the highway without looking back. I did look back once, farther down the road. The van was gone. No hazard light, no tire marks, nothing on the shoulder at all. I told myself I had panicked, told myself I had imagined parts of it. Then I got home and found a smear of mud on my back seat, small handprints pressed into the fabric. And sitting in the middle of them was a yellow strand of stiff, synthetic hair.
I did not sleep that night. I left every light on in the house and sat in the kitchen with a hammer from the toolbox resting across my lap, like that could do anything for me. The strand of yellow hair lay on the table in front of me. I must have checked the locks on the doors 10 times, maybe more. Every little sound in the house made me look up. I kept telling myself there had to be an explanation. Someone had planted the hair in my car. Someone had been hiding in the van. The thing in the driver's seat had been a mask, a trick of the dark, a person trying to scare me for reasons I could not understand. That was the story I held on to until morning. Then I saw the handprint. It was on the outside of my kitchen window. Small, muddy, pressed right at eye level if a child had stood on the flower bed and leaned in to look at me during the night. I backed away so fast I hit the counter. There were no footprints in the soil below the window, just the print on the glass and a faint streak dragging downward, like the hand had slowly slid away. I did not call anyone. I knew how that sounded. I cleaned the window, threw the hair into the trash, and tried to act like none of it had happened. By the second night, I was hearing things. Not voices, not footsteps, little clicks, from different parts of the house. The living room door would click like the latch had shifted. Then, minutes later, the hallway closet. Then the bathroom. Always one sharp little sound, never loud, never enough to prove anything. I stopped going room to room to check. That only made it worse. It felt like I was being led. On the third night, I woke to the smell from the van. Damp fabric, oil, something sweet underneath, old and rotten. It was so strong I gagged. My bedroom door was open. I always sleep with it closed. I sat up and stared into the dark hallway. The house was still. No movement, no sound. Then, from somewhere downstairs, I heard it. A child's voice. Soft, patient. "Will you help me now?" I did not move. Every muscle in my body locked at once. I could hear my pulse pounding in my ears, but underneath it was that same slow breathing I had heard inside the van. Wet, dragging, getting closer. Something was coming up the stairs. One step, another step. Not the quick, light steps of a child. Something heavier, careful, as though it knew I was listening and liked that I knew it was coming. I reached for the lamp on my bedside table and tore the cord loose from the wall, trying to switch it on. The bulb flashed once and died. The breathing stopped outside my door. Then I heard the handle turn, very slowly. The door swung inward. At first I saw nothing but the hallway and darkness beyond it. Then a shape appeared low to the ground, sitting in the doorway. The doll, blue coat, yellow hair, head tilted slightly to one side. Its painted smile looked wider than I remembered. Behind it, filling the hallway from wall to wall, stood the figure from the van. The same ruined outline, the same hanging face. One hand braced against the frame, the other resting lightly on the doll's shoulder, like a father posing a child for a photograph. I grabbed the hammer and shouted, though I do not remember what I said. Something stupid, something desperate. The thing in the hallway answered in that perfect child's voice. "You left before the ride was over." Then the doll stood up, not jerkily, not like a toy moved by a string, It rose the way a real child would rise, steady and balanced, and took one step into my room. I swung the hammer. I hit it square in the face. The head snapped sideways with a crack, but it did not fall. It only turned back toward me, slowly, until those painted eyes faced me again. Then the thing behind it rushed forward. I remember falling backward over the bed. I remember the stink of rot and wet cloth. I remember that ruined face over mine, and the child's voice coming from somewhere beside my ear, calm as a whisper. "We found the right passenger." After that, nothing. I woke at dawn in my car on the shoulder of the highway. The engine was off. The keys were in my pocket. My front door key was gone. And parked 50 yards ahead of me, half in the weeds and half on the asphalt, was the same old white van. Its rear doors were open, waiting.
I should have driven away. That is the part that bothers me most now. I had already escaped that van once. I had already seen enough to know nothing good waited inside it. But when I woke, there on the shoulder, with the dawn coming in gray and thin, I just sat there, staring at those open rear doors, like they were daring me to remember something I had missed. The highway was empty. No passing cars, no birds, no wind in the trees. Just that van ahead of me, dull and white in the weak morning light, looking less like a broken-down vehicle and more like a mouth left hanging open. I checked my pockets again. Wallet, keys, phone. No house key. My hands were shaking so badly I nearly dropped the phone trying to unlock it. There were 6 missed calls from my sister and 1 voicemail from her that had come in during the night. Her voice was tight, frightened. "Call me back right now. It's about Dad." My stomach turned cold. My father had died when I was 12. I played the message again just to be sure I had heard it right. Same words, same fear in her voice. Then I called her, straight to voicemail. I tried again. Nothing. I looked back at the van. There was something on the inside floor, just beyond the doors. A ring of keys. My house key was on it. I wish I could tell you I ignored it. I wish I could say I had finally learned. But fear does strange things when it mixes with hope. All I could think was that if someone had taken my key, maybe there was still some human explanation buried under all of this. Some sick prank. Some trap I could finally understand. I got out of the car. The morning air smelled wrong. Not fresh, not cold. It smelled like the inside of a damp basement that had been sealed for years. I approached the van slowly, keeping my eyes on the open rear doors. The ring of keys was right there, lying on the floor mat where I could clearly see it. Mine was attached. I recognized the little metal chip on the blue plastic head. I reached in and grabbed it. The door slammed shut behind me. This time, both rear doors. The sound hit like a gunshot in the enclosed space. I spun around, throwing my shoulder against them, but they would not budge. The inside of the van was darker than it should have been, far darker than the daylight outside allowed. The windows looked painted over with shadow. Then the bench seat creaked. The doll was sitting there again. Its face was ruined where I had hit it with the hammer. One side was split open, exposing something dark and wet beneath the broken shell. Meat. I staggered back until my spine hit the doors. "No," I said. "No."
The doll tilted its head, and in my father's voice, clear enough to stop my heart for a beat, it said, "Son." I do not mind telling you I cried then. Not from fear alone, from the shock of hearing that voice again after so many years, warm and familiar, even coming from that thing. "Please," I whispered. The doll's smile widened until the cracked face split farther. From the front of the van came the scrape of a shoe dragging across the floor. The ruined man stepped into the aisle. In daylight, he looked worse. His skin hung in strips, his eyes were sunk deep and pale, and the shape of his body looked wrong, as if too many bones had been broken and healed badly. He kept one hand against the wall to steady himself. The other held my house key between two blackened fingers. I looked down at the ring in my hand. Every key on it was a copy. The thing took another step and spoke in my sister's voice now. "He has a key. He came into the house." Then, back in the child's voice, "We only borrow what lets us in." Every lock pin in the van snapped down at once. The thing raised one hand and pointed past me. I turned. One of the rear doors was open again, to my kitchen. I could see the table, the chair I had sat in all night, the hammer still lying where I had left it, the morning light through my own window. It was my house, somehow folded into the back of that van. And standing in the kitchen doorway, looking straight at me, was another version of myself, only smiling. The doll whispered, "One of you gets to leave." I do not remember choosing to run. I threw myself through the open door and hit my kitchen floor hard enough to knock the air from my lungs. Behind me, I heard the van doors slam, not in the house, but somewhere far away, like thunder rolling off down the highway. I scrambled up, slammed the kitchen door, then the back door, then every other door in the house. When I finally looked out the front window, my car was parked in the driveway. Normal, silent, no van anywhere. That was 3 nights ago. Since then, someone has been trying my locks after midnight. Not scratching, not pounding, just one careful handle at a time. And last night, from the other side of my bedroom door, I heard my own voice say, "Let me in."